My original story Shadows is being made over on Webtoon. Head on over there for chapters every month, and while you're at it, subscribe, leave a rating, and some feedback. I'd really appreciate it.
I did not enjoy Sonic 2. There you go, now you can leave the video now if you don't like that opinion. But hey, I can't explain myself, so hey, stick around. Also,
spoilers fucking everywhere!
Let's begin. Hello everybody, and welcome back. My name is Manga, and it's been a while, hasn't it? Been a good few months since my last video, and I think I got a good one for you this time. Today's video is going to be me discussing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that came out fairly recently, or months ago depending on when I release this video. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. My god, Sonic 2 was a movie that was hyped to fucking death. Ever since its initial trailer involving our favorite dumb boy, people were completely ecstatic to see this film come out. It also didn't help that it felt like most of the budget was being shoveled into the marketing of this film because my god, that shit was fucking relentless. Keeping up some good old Sonic tradition, I see. And when it was finally released, it was met with waves upon waves of praise. People left and right completely loved it. They adored the references, the betrayal of Knuckles, Tails, Agent Stone, Robotnik, and the Blue Justice himself, and they loved the really great designs of all the characters. Lots of my friends whose opinions I respect said that the movie was very enjoyable, and I was honestly quite excited to see the movie for myself. And so, I did. I'm starting to realize I really shouldn't have said what I said at the start of the video, because now my joke doesn't work. Suffice to say, I came out of the movie not feeling the same way. I in fact feel the complete opposite, to a point where I was heavily doubting on if I watched the same movie as everyone else. I found a lot of problems contained in this film. Glaring problems that I find it hard to believe that most people just accepted this movie for what it was. And as I thought more about what I saw, the more annoyed and confused I became. So this video is going to be me discussing these qualms I have with this movie, but I'm also going to be doing something else. Because this movie has sparked such a reignited drive in me to do a video essay, instead of just talking about Sonic 2 for the whole video, I'm also going to be bringing up the first movie as well, as I saw that these two films share a lot in common and a lot of the problems. And I think bringing the first movie back can be a good way for me to compare the two and make my case towards Sonic 2 a lot stronger. So with this decently long intro out of the way, let me discuss my opinion on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with a little bit of one, and talk about where I think this movie went wrong and how I found these problems to be ones that seriously need to be fixed if any more of this universe comes back. So let's just jump right in. Man, have I missed this. Let's first start off with the general plot. The story takes place a few months after the first movie, and Eggman is seen vibing and going even more insane than he was in movie 1, until he manages to make a machine that releases an energy wave, and after going supposedly unconscious, a power ring opens up. After getting attacked by 3 mysterious figures, you never find out who these people are, so don't question it, they were honestly kinda pointless. And no, I'm not reading the comic. Eggman comes face to face with none other than Pummels the Echidna, who demands to know where he got Sonic's quill from. The story then cuts to Sonic himself trying his best to become a vigilante hero, and after destroying half a city block, Sonic is given a lecture by Tom on handling his powers and being responsible with them. You know, the whole with great power comes great responsibility thing. In any other movie this would actually indicate Tom's eventual death, but this is Sonic the Hedgehog, so of course it doesn't. Tom and his wife Maddie then head off to Hawaii to celebrate the wedding of Maddie's sister Rachel, and with Sonic in the house all alone, Eggman with his new red-brain dead compadre attack him and completely body him, with Dummels telling Sonic that he is out to retrieve ultimate power and that he knew of Longclaw. Duckles is about to get the jump on him until Tails performs some good old police brutality and saves Sonic just in time. With their escape, Eggman then offers Spasticles a deal to go find this ultimate power, which is the Master Emerald, and Oblivicles, because he's Oblivicles, agrees to team up. Cut to Sonic and Tails, and they discover that the map Sonic had ever since he was a child was actually a treasure map, and after Force Ghost Longclaw tells him that if the Master Emerald falls into evil's hands, life will cease to exist, it's now a race against time to find the Master Emerald with 2 teams trying to accomplish the same goal, and of course, wacky hijinks ensue. Sounds like a pretty basic story, right? And yeah, it is. This story is one that could have been a really fun road trip adventure, and it would have been a great way to help develop characters in a really balanced and organic way. The stakes could have really been something to behold now that we know that whoever gets the Master Emerald can do whatever they want. This movie's plot is absolute garbage. I don't know how they did it, but I swear they managed to screw up almost everything this plot had to offer. From the movie having no sense of focus on the actual stakes surrounding Eggman getting the Master Emerald to the cramming in of of completely pointless scenes, this movie's story is a complete and utter mess. Some scenes throughout the film seem like they just happen because the plot needs to get to the end rather than being organically woven into the plot. Like the film is acting more like a slideshow than an actual story, which creates one of the biggest issues in Sonic 2. The pacing. Before I saw the film, I discovered on Twitter that people mentioned the movie being over 2 hours in length, plus the credits. And when I was going into this film, I was very curious on how they managed to make this movie over 2 hours, considering that the first one was your typical 80 to 90 minutes. I guessed before going in that it was because of the addition of Knuckles, and because of that, the film needed extra time in hopes to develop him better. But now that I've seen it, I found out that Sonic 2 in actuality is a 90-minute film that has been stretched to 2 hours. If I was to give the first movie praise on anything, it would be that it was a decently paced movie. I didn't really feel like Sonic 1 was either too long or too short, or that it had any scenes that could have just been cut out. It was perfectly mid in terms of how the movie actually flowed. Hell, if anything, I would argue that the film felt like a very fast watch, which insert Sonic Fest joke here. But my point still stands. Sonic 1's pacing was honestly pretty good. That is something I cannot say about Sonic 2. This movie was way too long. There are plenty of scenes contained in this film's runtime that are so meaningless to the movie's plot that if you were to trim these out of the film, you would miss barely anything. This film has so much filler that at some point it completely halts the movie and it can be very agonizing to sit through. The prime example is the wedding scene about halfway through the movie. This part is about 15 minutes long and my god, it did not need to be that length. It not only grinds the film's plot to a screeching halt, but it focuses on characters that in terms of the story mean nothing. The film just suddenly decides to hyper-focus on the human characters getting into wacky shenanigans, introduces the formation of Gun, and gives Rachel's husband the most bizarre character arc that added nothing to the movie. All of it felt completely pointless, and at some point during it, I legitimately forgot I was watching a Sonic film. It was filler at its absolute finest. And there are other scenes like this contained in the movie, like the dance battle inside the Russian tavern. I know that it was done in a way to help build some camaraderie between Sonic and Tails, but I swear to god, because of the way it was so poorly handled, it just felt like filler. Like they just wanted to show off that they had the rights to use the song Uptown Funk levels of filler. Honestly, if you were to trim out these scenes or jokes that added nothing to the film, you would probably be left with about only 90 to 95 minutes of runtime. I'm not kidding. Because of this filler always getting in the way of the story, Sonic 2's stakes suffered intensely as it felt like the movie had no real focus on what was going on. Eggman getting the Master Emerald should have been something that was genuinely frightening, but the movie's storytelling didn't give off those vibes at all. It was like Sonic 2 was so busy trying to make its audience laugh and throw in as many references as possible that it just forgot that it had a story to tell. Trust me, I will talk more about that stuff later. So when we do get scenes that try to dive into the deeper lore of the movie, like the owls, the echidnas, and the origins of the Master Emerald, it comes completely out of nowhere and doesn't have a lot of time to really bloom in the story. Which really sucked because this film has a story that, if properly focused on, would have actually been really interesting. I want to know about this war between the echidnas and the owls. I want to know the sheer power of the Master Emerald. That shit's cool. But instead, we get oh so needed scenes of the cast being wacky taking up the majority of the runtime, making this movie a totally confused mess that had no stakes or focus. And there are just a few moments in this film that, when you really think about them, make no sense at all. Like, one of these plot points I found was the part where Sonic gets Force Ghost Longclaw by touching the drawing of the Master Emerald on his map. I'm sorry, but like, huh? So what, did Sonic throughout his 10 plus years on Earth never once touch this drawing or thought about what it means? Did he never think about the Master Emerald throughout his life? Does he have to be thinking about Longclaw and the Master Emerald at the same time in order for the magic to happen? It's not explained at all. Also, considering that Force Ghost Longclaw said that this message would appear if something happened to her, this implies that either Longclaw's message came 10-ish years too late, or that at this very moment she just died or something. So was she alive all this time and just died once Sonic touched the drawing? Whichever way you look at it, this scene was just really weird plot convenience. There's also the tavern dance battle scene. In the context of the movie's own lore, Sonic not being able to get the map makes no sense considering that it's been established before that Sonic has the ability to go Quicksilver levels of fast. He did the stunt in the first movie twice and even does it in this film too. Why didn't he just go Quicksilver, take the map, grab Tails, and go? It would have made more sense than just dancing and wasting a few minutes of precious time. Remember, they're racing against Eggman and Schmuckles to get the location of the Master Emerald. Film film, you could have just had it so that the Russian's grip was just that tight that Sonic had no chance of getting it. That would have made sense, that would have been fine. But again, because the movie doesn't even do that, this scene just makes no sense. The Sonic and Knuckles fight also, when you really think about it, shouldn't have even happened. Remember, in that scene in particular, Sonic's goal was to make sure that he gets the Master Emerald before Eggman, but rather than just running up the stairs towards it and not stopping, he completely stops in his tracks when he sees Ploticles jump to the left side of the room, which on top of asking why didn't Smickles just run up the stairs after Sonic or punch the stairs to make him lose his footing, why did Sonic even give Reticles any kind of mind? Logically, he should have just ignored him and kept running without stopping. So the fight really should not have happened. But the biggest, and dare I say, worst plot convenience that I saw in the movie was Eggman even getting his hands on the Master Emerald. Because in according with the rules these movies have established themselves, the fact that Sonic didn't stop Eggman from getting it was baffling. Like what I asked when talking about the tavern scene, why didn't Sonic go Quicksilver and grab the Master Emerald? This would have been the perfect time to do that. It wasn't like he was particularly injured or that his leg was trapped in rocks or something. There's no logical excuse. Sonic was literally just sitting there watching as Eggman goes on his whole spiel to Betrayacles and takes the emerald right in front of him. And Sonic just did nothing. Bro, you've been warned about what would happen if Eggman got his hands on this thing. This is fucking urgent. What are you sitting there for? Do something! This is a factor of Sonic's character that I honestly didn't expect to see in the sequel, considering that the first movie did this great. When it comes to how fast he can go, Sonic's speed in this movie was bizarrely inconsistent. Some of the stuff in this film wouldn't have even happened if Sonic just remembered that he can go fast. And if by any chance he were to go Quicksilver, there would have been so many easy ways to explain why him going fast wouldn't have worked. A quick explanation would have been completely fine, but because the movie doesn't try to even give a reason why Sonic didn't go fast, it honestly just feels like it just expected you to not question it. Plot convenience just went through the roof here, holy shit. There is also the reveal of Shadow in the end credits, which in and of itself raises a million questions considering how different circumstances are in the movie than it was in the games. But because we don't exactly see much of Shadow and we don't know how the third movie is going to tackle him, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and just wait until the third film. I personally think they're going to raise so many fucking plot holes, but that's just my cynical mindset, I'm sorry. All I will say is that this reveal was just baffling. This was possibly the worst time to even introduce Shadow, and honestly, if the end credits revealed Metal Sonic instead of him, it would have been so much better. That shit would have made a million times more sense. But that's enough about the plot. Let's get to the other thing, shall we? Because trust me, ooh, I have a lot more to say about them. Moving on to the characters of the film, let's talk about the new additions first, since the marketing of Sonic 2 was all about showing them off. Let's first start off with Tails, and how he was completely sidelined in this film. Like, bro, my fucking god, poor Tails. It's a real shame that the movie added in Pubbles because my god, Tails was left with almost nothing to do here. He was just slept on throughout the film. In the second half, he literally is just sleeping for a good 25 minutes. His gadgets are more useful than him at one point. Rather than being his own character like the other people in the cast, he's reduced to either explaining the plot and the lore of the Emeralds, which if you try to argue he's like that in the games, please just don't. Being a Deus Ex Machina to get characters out of a dire situation, or fanboying over Sonic. While yes, you can argue that Tails does do shit in the movie, and you would be right, it's more of him doing actions because the plot demands it, rather than having Tails do it because it's in his character. I'd even go as far as to say that most of the conflict that comes out of this movie was caused by Tails. Seriously, rewatch it, like it's actually pretty funny. And just of all the things you could have made Tails, why did you make him a fanboy? He honestly seemed like he was going to end up as a villain with the way he was obsessively talking to Sonic. Seriously, if this was any other movie, they would have done that. But no, this is just who Tails is, and Yeah, he really could have been a lot better. For fuck's sake, even his backstory was only spoken in dialogue, whereas Sonic and Knuckles got fully animated scenes. My poor boy was robbed. Now, before any of you mention the comic book that acts like a prequel to this movie and say I should read it to understand Tails better, Sonic Forces tried to do this before, and I just absolutely despise cross-platform entertainment, and I just don't care. If that stuff was important to Tails' character, then it should have been in the film. But let's move on and talk about the friendship between Sonic and Tails. Why did it happen? Seriously, why did it happen? These two had barely any time to get to know each other, and in the space of not even 10 minutes, Sonic goes from saying he doesn't trust Tails because he literally just met him, to saying he won't let anything happen to him. Sonic, why are you so trusting of someone you just met for presumably about an hour? I get he saved your life and all, but come on, you're not gonna be at least cautious or wary of the fact that Tails has a strong idea of who you are? At all? Has Longclaw taught you nothing about people being out to get you? On top of that, since Sonic already trusts Tails and treats him like a friend before they even started their adventure, it really dampens the scene where the movie tries to make me feel happy for Tails finally having a friend when he starts having a heart-to-heart with Sonic in the tavern. Because it's just like, Tails, you know you got your new friend title like 15 minutes ago, come on buddy, keep up. In this film, the friendship that was built between Tails and Sonic was completely unearned. It really felt like the film handled this connection like they just expected the audience to already know who these characters are, and because of that, they didn't really try to develop the friendship naturally. Because yeah, of course they're going to be friends, have you ever played the games? None of it felt natural at all. Which sucks, because it would have been fairly easy to develop these two properly if the movie just decided to be a little more clever with how they handled them. I personally think the way they built the camaraderie at the tavern was just not a good place to build the friendship. It just made it seem like the movie was, like I said before, more focused on just shoving in another song that they had the rights to use, rather than just letting these two get to know each other better. All of it just felt too forced. Sonic and Tails should have just had more time to spend together actually going on an adventure, so that way the film would have been able to actually develop some rapport between the two. Make them have to stay in a cave, make them go through a jungle, make them have to work together to survive, do literally anything other than a dance battle. It could have made for some really good stuff, and if they just made Sonic a little bit more cautious with Tails, it would have been so nice. But nah, dance battles, am I right? Who doesn't love a good dance battle? We're a kids movie. Sonic trusting Tails immediately? Yeah, bro, that makes sense. Film, you had the chance to do something, you didn't take it, I'm disappointed. So because the movie completely sidelined Tails and replaced him with this fucking goblin, how did the film handle our boy? I'm mixed on Bubbles, to be honest. Now I will say this, Knuckles is easily the best fucking character in this movie. During the first third of the film, I actually really liked what the movie did with him. I'll be honest, he was really cool. I really liked the fact that he was just a no bullshit character and it was just so headstrong and to the point. It was honestly quite refreshing. I haven't seen this Knuckles in a really fucking long time. He was sick. He was fucking solid. Because I avoided the trailers as much as I could, I didn't really hear much of Idris Elba as Muscles, so I didn't have a strong opinion going in. Now that I've seen the movie, I can say with certainty that Idris Elba was a very good voice for Hubbles. At times. I have no idea whether it was the voice direction or it was a character writing thing, but did anyone else feel like Idris's voice was a bit inconsistent? Like, sometimes in the movie he has this really clear way of speaking like English is Idiodickle's first language, but for some reason at random intervals the voice will just change. Like, the way he sometimes speaks makes it sound like English went from being his first language to his second or third. I know this sounds weird, so let me just play you a couple of examples.
Early. My hand is uninjured.
Is everything a joke to you? Why must you constantly interfere with my destiny?
Porcupine, I am an echidna.
Ruining your life. Another bad joke. I lost everything because of you.
Longclaw and her people were the sworn enemy of my tribe, the echidna.
Hedgehog, you are a brave and noble warrior. Go to your certain death with honor.
I was expecting more of you.
Ha! Victory is mine. Grace is also mine.
Where did you get that?
Have conquered the serpent of the bases. Ah, my victory chariot. Ha ha ha. I am having the fun. What is ice cream? Sonic, I've just been told they have sprinkles. Tiny magic hedgehog destroyed. What a perfect meal to celebrate my victory over you in Base of 4. Ha! You've never been beaten so hard.
Do you see what I mean? It's just really weird. But as far as the character of Krakos himself, I can say that he is the strongest character out of the cast. At least in this movie, he actually goes through an arc and actually has a fair bit of inner turmoil that he deals with throughout the movie. But one small problem I had with this version of him is that sometimes I think the movie made Pluckles just a little too naive. You know, like a character who barely knows about simple shit like texting, technology, or having fun. I get that the film is trying to show that Makos has been on his own for a very long time, and he lived in a jungle, and thus may not have the strongest grasp on social cues and stuff like that. But having him read out the dots on a phone text and thinking a small hologram of Sonic is a tiny magic hedgehog, I don't know, that seems just a little too naive to me. But like I have been saying, I did like some of the things Sonic 2 did with him. Like the fact that some of his naivete actually did come off as fairly cute and charming, and the fact that we got to see a small bit of his connection to Sonic through his backstory was also a thing I wasn't expecting to see. We even got to see his father, that was cool. But everything else, a lot better than the other characters in the movie, but still has a few kinks. Since Fuckles teamed up with Eggman throughout the film, let's just move on to him and his husband Agent Stone. When it comes to Eggman, I think there is a strong villain there, but on the surface, Eggman came off as quite annoying in this one. Whereas in the first film he was insane but still tolerable, in this film he had no fucking cap put on to the insanity he was allowed to do or say, and it really shows. This guy will always try to add in a quirky joke to just remind the audience that he's nuts, and sometimes it really slows the movie down. I know that Jim Carrey is one of those actors that is really an acquired taste. Some love his zaniness and cartoony performances while others find it really annoying. And when it comes to these two sides of the fence, I'm on the liking side. He's definitely giving his all with his character, and that is something I do respect about him. But his improvisation and quick one-liners allows him to steal the scene whenever he's in it, for better, but mostly for worse. I don't think I would have exactly minded this more insane version of Eggman if it just wasn't for the fact that he was already insane in the first one, and arguably done better. All that it showed was that there was a limit to the insanity that I was able to tolerate, and this movie crossed that line many times. As for Agent Stone, yeah, he just missed his husband, what else can I say? He wasn't really a character in the first film, so turning him into a complete simp for Eggman in the second one was really the only direction they could go with him. And, it's fine. Stone is probably the only character who I can confidently say got the right amount of screen time. He was the only villain character that I was actually able to tolerate. I don't count Knuckles as an antagonist in this movie, he's too pure. As for the other human characters, they're also a mixed bag. Tom and Maddie are still very cute together and are easily the best characters in the film by far. Seriously, I am so happy that the filmmakers just made them a healthy loving relationship. And their scenes with Sonic are always the best scenes out of these movies so far. But for others, my god. Like I said before, the wedding scene is where the movie was at its worst, especially with the human characters, with the worst offender being Rachel. Now listen, I am by no means criticizing the actress who plays Rachel. She clearly looks and sounds like she's having fun with the character, and her acting is really good. She's doing the best with what the script gave her, and that is something I have nothing but respect for. As an actress, she's great. She's wonderful. My problem is simply that her character went from being only slightly annoying in the first one to being very annoying in the sequel. Rachel fell into the trap of the comedic character in the last film becoming popular, so the writers, thinking that she'll do well a second time, forgot what made her funny in the last movie and gave her far more screen time than what was necessary. Honestly, the entire wedding scene was just so shit. You even have her husband, who went from acting like a normal person to just not even sounding like a person the moment his twist of being a gun agent was revealed.
Oh my god, look at your face. Tommy, breathe, baby. Breathe. I was kidding.
You know, bro, those guys right there, they're way more than my groomsmen. That's my squad. And let me know if you're ready for some power yoga, huh?
You bet.
Come on, Tommy boy, let's go. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I really am. I am so sorry.
I just feel a little guilty about what I did to Rachel, sir.
Before I met you, I didn't think that I was even capable of real happiness.
I don't know, it was really fucking jarring. But with all of that said, there is one character who I haven't mentioned at all. That character being Sonic himself. What did I think of his character? After all, he's the one you spend the most time with in the film. I'm honestly a bit disappointed with how the movie handles Sonic. Like what I mentioned earlier in my plot summary, Sonic in this movie is trying to be a vigilante/superhero that uses his powers for good. But because of his inexperience and childish attitude, his rescues and adventures usually end up in either getting people hurt or buildings getting destroyed. This would usually be a setup to make it so that Sonic would start slowly realizing the responsibility he has, what happens when he acts too rashly, and by the end of the film would have learned from his mistakes and come out a lot more mature as a character. And when you take into account that Tails is there and the fact that he idolizes Sonic so much, this would have been a really good way to allow Sonic to mature, because now he sees a kid even younger than him copying him and getting himself into trouble. With the addition of Tails, Sonic could have had the chance to feel the same worries that Tom feels about him. He would have had the chance to get that different perspective that he just dismissed at the start of the movie as just annoying parental behavior. Sonic honestly could have had a bit of a mentor arc when it came to Tails. That would have been fairly interesting. This setup is usually always concluded with the character finally realizing that they're sounding like their parents. This would have been good. But that's not what happened in the film. Sonic, in actuality, didn't really change much. Not only is he making some of the same mistakes that he made in the first movie, like in the tavern scene, and just trusting random strangers, his arc at the end of this whole adventure is simply him acknowledging that he's still a kid and he has some growing up to do. And that's it. He doesn't learn to take responsibility, he doesn't learn to be a better hero or role model, he just simply accepts the fact he's a kid. It just felt a little lazy. I know that people are going to counter this by saying that the movie did show some of the things I said didn't happen in the film. Like, yes, Sonic does have one scene of taking responsibility for what happened to Tails, and he does repeat what Tom told him to Knuckles, but these scenes don't actually go anywhere. Sonic doesn't actually change as a character. It was more like a hint towards Sonic maturing rather than actually having Sonic mature, if that makes any sense. It's just they really could have done something with Sonic in this one, and they just didn't. But this weird character arc is nothing compared to the biggest problem I have with this film: the comedy. Now let me say this before I go on. I know that comedy is completely subjective. One person's "I hear you're a racist now, father" is another man's grown-ups too. That's just how comedy works. So if you like the comedy, then fine, you can take this entire segment with a pinch of salt. But from my perspective, I do genuinely feel like the comedy in this film has glaring issues. I personally think that Sonic 2 mostly fails to deliver on its comedy, and on many different occasions, it even ruins its own jokes. This will be where I'll be going on a tangent and bring up the first movie, because it too shared this problem, and it also serves as a better case study for the problems of Sonic 2. The best way I can describe the comedy not working in both films, at least for me, can be boiled down to two factors: overstaying and poor placement. Let me start off with the first point: overstaying. Jokes that went on for too long. In both movies, there are multiple examples of jokes that at first were fairly funny, but because of the films not knowing when to move on, the joke ends up losing its charm and the comedy is dampened as a result. To show you what exactly I'm talking about, I'm gonna bring up a scene from the first movie where the comedy was the perfect length, and another scene where the comedy overstayed its welcome. Let's take the scene of Sonic talking to Tom at the bar. In this scene, Tom gets annoyed at Sonic almost getting them into trouble by not listening to him to stay in the car, and in frustration, Tom asks Sonic if he will take this off the old bucket list, to which Sonic responds with reminding Tom that he's not the most educated when it comes to human life. As Sonic is writing up his own bucket list, he realizes that despite being on Earth for so long, there's so many things that he's never done, where he has the revelation that now that he's leaving forever, he never got to experience what life was like on Earth, and he missed his chance without even realizing it. So, Tom, feeling sympathetic, decides to spare an hour so that Sonic can tick off a few boxes, and to close the scene, they have this quick and witty exchange.
What? You're gonna bucket list with me?
Sure, why not?
You won't regret this.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I will.
This is a really good example of a joke being the perfect length. Not only was it a nice bow on top of a well-written scene, but because the joke didn't go on for too long, the scene itself wasn't ruined. It was allowed to have some heart, and so the joke, instead of killing the scene, enhanced it. It didn't overstay its welcome. An example of a joke overstaying its welcome would be the scene of Sonic confronting Eggman and pushing Tom and Maddie off the building.
I was not expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
What started off as a good joke was ruined by Jim Carrey adding in that extra bit of dialogue. The joke overstayed its welcome and thus was ruined. If you cut out that extra line, it would have been funnier. This is a small example, but it's a perfect joke to illustrate what I'm on about. Now let's move on to point number 2. Poor placement. Usually when jokes occur in these movies, they tend to always be during moments that really don't need them. And when it comes to certain scenes, these poorly placed jokes have the power to ruin what was originally a well-written and even heartfelt scene. This fear of having a bit of sincerity in these kinds of moments is something I'm just going to call MCU syndrome, where a heartfelt or tense scene that had the potential to be something great is ruined by the addition of an unneeded joke. Something like this.
You can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood. Okay, that didn't really make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say.
So where does this point apply to Sonic? Let me give you an example. Let's take the scene of Sonic arguing with Tom. This scene is meant to establish that Sonic, despite being fast, has no idea where he's going and that he needs Tom to get to San Francisco. In this scene, Sonic shows a bit of vulnerability and triggers Tom's weak spot in saying that he's not going to be able to do this on his own. It's a nice little moment. It works as a nice reminder on how both these characters act and how these characters are going to bond. A scene that wouldn't need a joke. But then, this happens.
And clearly, I'm not gonna be able to do this on my own.
What could have been a warm little scene of Sonic and Tom agreeing to go to San Francisco is cut short for a cheap laugh, and they decide to go even further in killing the heart of the scene with this little gag. It almost felt like the writers were too afraid of making the scene too heartfelt, like they were going to lose the audience's attention all of a sudden, and it's like, no, you wouldn't, just have some heart. These kind of jokes are exactly the kind of jokes I would describe a good percentage of the comedy of Sonic 2 being. Way too many jokes in this film either overstayed its welcome or was added in the worst possible places. The scene of Sonic seeing Force Ghost Longclaw, ruined by the addition of jokes. Tails committing police brutality on Smuckles, dampened with Eggman butting in with a joke. The Sonic and Knuckles fight at the temple, ruined by Eggman butting in with a joke. Eggman getting the Master Emerald and being insane, ruined by a scene of Wade interrogating Stone. I'm starting to notice that a lot of bad comedies around Eggman and I don't know how to feel about that. And jokes going on for too long? Where do I start? Sonic fooling Tom with a fake Sonic, Sonic falling into the water, the wedding scene. I promise this will be the last time I bring it up. All the scenes involving Wade, Eggman's betrayal speech to Muckles, Buckles reading out the messages. These are all jokes that could have all been perfectly fine if the writers just knew when to cut them short or cut them out entirely, but they didn't. They just go on, and on, and on. Upon rewatching it and seeing all the times a joke either added nothing to a scene or took too long to stop, I came to the conclusion that these jokes are probably the main reason this film eventually reached 2 hours in the first place. Now, I won't go as far as to say that all the movie's jokes are bad, or that there was no scene in the movie that was heartfelt, because that would be a lie. Scenes like Tom and Maddie being with Sonic and Sonic talking to Redemptionicals are scenes I thought had a lot of heart and actually came off as fairly charming and a bit funny, because the jokes didn't feel forced. And this is my biggest gripe with movie 2 in particular. In trying so hard to be funny, it messes with the tone of the film, and kills a good bit of heart and sincerity that the movie could have had. And it's like, movie, you have shown that you are capable of having at least some heart in a couple of your scenes. You have shown me that you can do it. So why couldn't you just do more of that instead of all these really forced jokes? There are times when a joke does not need to be in a scene, and Sonic 2, in more places than one, fails to understand that. A little bit of sincerity can go a really long way. Please do more of that for movie 3. From its messy plot, mixed bag of characters, and extremely mixed presentation, there was a lot of stuff to say on the stuff I didn't like about Sonic 2. In terms of being an actual movie with a structure and flow, this was very, very poor. So, was there anything in this movie I liked? I mean, yeah, there was some stuff. I will say that the first third of the movie was fairly solid. That was where I think a lot of the best character moments happened. It was when it got around to the part where Sonic and Tails went to Wade's garage is where I thought the movie started going downhill. In terms of the acting, everybody in the film definitely gave off the feeling like they were having fun, and in some parts, that fun was honestly contagious. Again, Tom and Maddie just being together and interacting with their son is good shit. I will die on this hill. These three are so fucking pure. And the effects, aside from 1 or 2 hiccups, were also really good, with the fight scenes being decently made and the designs of the Sonic characters being beyond superb. They got the design of the red dipshit perfect. Anything below that would be a lie, come on. And there were some small cute moments that just, you know, made me smile. But as I thought about how the movie was as a whole, it just gets progressively worse. I do see the things people liked in the movie. There are plenty of references and in-jokes that would make a die-hard fan of Sonic smile, and I will say that the movie does have plenty of cute moments with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and some of the human characters. But personally, I found all the times the movie being cute or winking a reference in my direction to feel like it was on the line of just jangling keys in front of my face. Yeah, you have our boy, the other boy, the temples, the Master and Chaos Emeralds, the lore, the Death Egg robot as the final boss, and you even have Supersonic fighting and Shadow in the end credits. That stuff is cool. Sure, that stuff is iconic when it comes to Sonic. But that isn't enough. Showing off references and hitting us with iconic Sonic imagery does not inherently make this movie good. It's not good storytelling. The references are simply just a distraction. A lazy distraction that didn't fool me from the fact that this film, on a story and character level, was very poor. You're not really making a story at that point, you're just showing off highlights. I listened to a certain video going around by a YouTuber named Arlo who made his own negative opinion piece, and an argument he brought up was that Sonic 2 wasn't made with Sonic fans in mind.
It's the classic mistake of the out-of-touch studio executive to make a product using an IP, not for the actual audience of the IP, but for the audience they think it should have.
I vehemently disagree with this criticism solely based on the fact that I think the movie has the complete opposite problem. It was made with Sonic fans in mind too much, not too little. The first movie did have references, but if you took those references away, you'd still have an alright film that had heart. Sonic 1 was a decent movie in the fact that it was made with the feeling that it was made for both the fans and the general public in mind. It managed to balance itself properly. In Sonic 2, fuck no, this shit was made just for the fans. The general public get nothing here. I could honestly imagine just how much fucking confusion they would have when watching this film. I mentioned this way earlier before with my criticism surrounding Tails and Sonic's friendship, and the critique still stands. Sonic 2 makes the fatal mistake of assuming you already know enough about Sonic to believe that the stuff in the movie either makes sense, or that because of the iconic imagery, it's just inherently good. When you take away your knowledge of Sonic and Tails' friendship, it doesn't make sense in the film. When you take away your knowledge of who Shadow is, him showing up in the end credits was completely random and makes no sense. Seriously, you could have used this to hype up Metal Sonic, why the fuck did you choose Shadow? This movie acted as a really serious love letter to the franchise, and while that is better than giving the IP no respect at all, I think that swinging the pendulum to the opposite side isn't good either. There needs to be a nice middle ground. And personally, I think the first movie just did that a lot better. So, overall, I did not enjoy Sonic 2. If I just turned my brain off and just watched the pretty colors, I definitely could get some enjoyment out of it, but I wanted a bit more than just nods and cuteness, and Sonic 2 just didn't deliver on that. I would say that in the end, the first movie as a whole was just a better made film. But, those are my thoughts on Sonic 2. And for now, my name is Manga Rider, and I will see you in the next one.